Go. Yes, guys, and welcome back to another WM32 football podcast episode. And today, back with Nelson, and we will be going through a coach's insight episode once again. So that is where we look at a particular coach of a football club, and we delve into some issues that are potentially happening with that particular football club. Before we start and before we get into it, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are still so close to hitting the 100 subscriber mark. So please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It would mean a lot to myself personally if I could hit that 100 subscriber mark. And don't forget as well that the online shop is, of course, live and direct. We're going to come through like AJ Tracy with that one. And for those watching on YouTube, as you can see, Nelson is repping a hoodie, which I have been informed is very warm. I know summer is coming, but even for those winter months, I'm sure the hoodies will keep you guys nice and warm. Right then, Nels, coach's insight, as I mentioned today. Who is the coach and who is the club that is under the spotlight today?
Well, Wes, this one is going to be right up your alley, simply because you know this man very well. Because, I mean, we all know this man very well, but the reason why you know him so well is because he's manager of your club. So today we will be looking at Tottenham Hotspur, and we will be focusing our Insight series today on Jose Mourinho, or Jose, as he likes it to be pronounced. So obviously I've got a few questions to ask you regarding Jose, the club, the situation that's currently going on right now. And obviously, you know me, as I always like to host. We've also got a quiz to end, as usual, so hopefully, last week you got 100%, which you did really well in. So we'll see if you can get 100% on Jose this week, and we'll get the guys at home as well to join in. So, guys, as we get started, just a quick brief summary of Tottenham this season. On the weekend, they beat Burnley 4-0, and they currently find themselves 8th in the Premier League table, which is 2 places above their arch rivals, Arsenal. Obviously, I'm a supporter, but it's really difficult to see that right now.
Louder for those at the back. Say it louder for those at
the back. Yes, they are 2 places above Arsenal in 8th. In their last 5 games, they've lost 3 of their last 5 games, which is a huge contrast actually to the beginning of the season, which Wes can obviously testify later. In the beginning of the season, where they racked up really impressive wins against the likes of United, which they demolished 6-1. You've got Manchester City as well, a really good home win, 2-0. And also they beat Arsenal 2-0, but I probably wouldn't put Arsenal as an impressive win, as that's a usual kind of job that they do at White Hart Lane. Also got the fact that this summer, there was the homecoming of Gareth Bale. However, you know, leading up to the game against Burnley, I think many can testify that, you know, his return hasn't seen him reproduce the form that he once produced before, you know, his big money move to Real Madrid. So, Wes, my first question, as always, as we get started, is the current assessment of the club so far, so for this season. So what's been your current assessment of your boys?
Yeah, this has been an interesting season for Tottenham. I think we're now kind of seeing a Mourinho team starting to form and take shape, as opposed to the one that he took over in and around sort of October, November time last season. Been very inconsistent, but then I think majority of teams in the league this season have been inconsistent. But you were looking at it, and you know, you see teams in and around you perhaps being inconsistent, and you just sort of think to yourself and feel like, okay, if we can just be consistent in terms of picking up points here and there, you know, we'll be in the mix for a shout. You know, certainly for top 4. I think the league was always going to be a huge ask, because of the nature of the likes of City and Liverpool anyway. I think those 2 were naturally sort of favourites at the start of the season. But yeah, the highs have been ridiculously high this season. and the lows have been seriously, seriously low for Tottenham this season. So that's probably the best way that I can sum it up. Like the highs have been fantastic under Mourinho, but the lows have been hard to take. That is for sure.
And before we move on to actually looking more into Jose himself, him as a coach, I wanted to ask, obviously, you obviously me being your friend, you were really attached to former manager Mauricio Pochettino, and he obviously brought a lot of success to your club in terms of progression, moving the club forward and getting them recognised as a top six club. When Mourinho came in your opinion, was he, even though obviously you've got to stick with him now, was he the person that you believed that could take Tottenham forward after the amazing job that Pochettino did before? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, interesting one. This Poch's birthday as well today, so happy birthday,
Wow.
Poch. Also, happy birthday to a former manager in Harry Redknapp, and also happy 32nd birthday, Toby Alderweireld. So
Wow.
it's like a massive chunk of birthday connected to Tottenham today. But yeah, I think, look, Poch's time at Tottenham, I don't think anybody can forget. I think if they do, then they've got really, really short memories. He made a lot of fans fall back in love with the club again, because we'd been on an 18-month, almost 2-year journey under AVB and Sherwood that was horrific for most of it. And then obviously we had the 4 years with Harry, which was fantastic as well. So we've had like ups and downs, I mean, as most clubs have, but with Tottenham, they seem to be very, very, huge and drastic. Like we had 4 great years under Harry Redknapp, all of a sudden changed direction, brought in AVB and Sherwood, and then, just went west basically. And then Poch kind of brought it all back in line and in check almost. The only downside for Poch was there was no tangible success, and that's the brush he gets tarnished with, is the no trophies. But I think the actual job he done was remarkable. He connected a football club. He developed a club culture and a club philosophy, from literally running right the way from top to bottom. It was crazy. I was lucky enough to spend some time with somebody at Tottenham's training ground. Had a little look through and had a chat with somebody there, and you felt the influence there of Pochettino, despite the fact the training ground and the setup of the training ground had already been built with a plan in place. But you felt Pochettino's philosophy, right the way through the people that work there. And I mean, I haven't seen too many training grounds in my time. Would love to see some more, but that training ground there is, state of the art, and it's a fantastic place for anybody to go and work. If you are a cleaner, if you are the person on reception, if you are, one of the coaches, say in the foundation, you have to go and do a little bit of work in there. If you're in the academy as one of the coaches, the analyst, the sports scientist, right the way through, it's just a fantastic working environment. And everything is there for you. So you go from that then to somebody who isn't renowned for that or renowned for that, in Mourinho. Look, we know why Jose was brought in. It was to get us over the line, and it was to get us winning trophies. Was I a fan of Mourinho's appointment? No. I said that at the time. I wasn't happy with it. Felt that Poch's hard work and what he'd built was going to go out the window. And it was a case of, it felt to me like Tottenham made a desperate appointment in Mourinho. I'm not doubting Mourinho at all. The guy's won everything in the game. So I'm not doubting him. It just felt like, okay, we are desperate for trophies. Who's the man that's done it? Jose Mourinho. Right. Well, we're going to get Jose Mourinho in then to win us trophies. So yeah, obviously I wasn't a fan of it at the time. I think I did a podcast episode on it actually, where we did Poch out and Jose in, and I was very, very critical of the appointment. The style of play, I think, has now come into the forefront, which I pretty much said at the time, if any Tottenham fan was expecting free flowing attacking football and everything that we fell in love with our team under Pochettino, I'm pretty sure I said that wasn't going to happen. Lo and behold, it's not exactly happening and going to plan currently. So yeah, I was very, very critical of it. I don't know if it was the emotional attachment that Jose had to Chelsea, which are one of Tottenham's biggest rivals. Anyway, so yeah, I wasn't a fan of Mourinho coming in at the time, but I think just because I'm not a fan of him doesn't mean I'm not going to give him a chance. So I think that's key. Like for any sort of Tottenham or any fan of any football club, if you bring somebody in to take charge of your club, okay, you may say at the time whether you wanted them or wanted somebody else or whatnot, but I think as well you have to give them time, and you have to give them a chance at least to do something with the team, and yeah, I think I've tried to do that with Mourinho since he's come in. Sorry, Nels, just struggled to hear you a little bit with that one. But I kind of got the gist of it. It was talking about Mourinho's rise to being sort of where he is. I think he come out, or I watched an interview with Mourinho not so long ago, and he talked about sort of being the son of a coach or manager, because I think his dad was a coach or a manager. So that's something that it seemed had always been in his thinking in terms of being a coach or a manager. I mean, Mourinho's rise to the top is inspiring for many young coaches, really. But it's about, again, he got given a chance somewhere. Somebody gave him a chance, whether that was Sir Bobby Robson at Barcelona, whether that was, a chairman of a football club somewhere. So I think, yeah, it's great that we've now seen a rise of somebody who didn't really have a playing career and is now regarded arguably as one of the most decorated and one of the most successful managers and coaches that there is. But yeah, somebody somewhere took a chance on him, and I think he's grasped it. He's learned a lot along the way, to then get his success at Porto. Now, I think the key is as well, he had a couple of jobs before Porto that didn't work out well. But he stayed true to himself and, got the job at Porto. And, we all remember the famous celebration of him running down the touchline at Old Trafford. That really sort of put him on the map. And, seeing them then win the Champions League, again, it was a shock to pretty much everybody. And then since then, Mourinho hasn't looked back. He got the Chelsea job, called himself the special one in his first interview. I think that goes against him with the media, because I don't think the media liked it at the time, because he was a relative, he was an unknown really. And then all of a sudden, he has the audacity almost to come out and say he's the special one, when you've got the likes, especially in the Premier League, you had the likes of Wenger and Sir Alex in there at the time, but he backed himself to be better than both of them. So yeah, I think obviously then we know what happened with his time at Chelsea, winning the Premier League. Yeah, he had a lot of money to spend as well. And then obviously he's had Inter Milan, Real Madrid, Man United, where again things didn't necessarily. It's been an interesting one with Mourinho though, because for all his success, he's had a lot of, I wouldn't say failures, but a lot of things also along the way haven't gone to plan when he's been at these clubs. Obviously, in both stints at Chelsea, it seems that Mourinho will get you to a certain point, and then all of a sudden arguments start happening, which I think is the most interesting thing. I don't know why that is. I'd love to know why. I think his cases at each of his clubs have been different. I remember Fabregas coming out and saying in his second stint at Chelsea that he trusted the players too much and then they let him down. Madrid was falling out with senior players. United was a board issue. So, yeah, it seems like Jose isn't one to kind of mince his words on, and, he will dig people out. But no, certainly his rise to the top is one that should be inspiring, really, for any sort of young coaches out there, to be honest. No, we're still struggling now. Still struggling a little bit. There we go. We're in.
Yeah. Okay. Better? Much better.
Much better.
Okay. So, great touch that you pointed out regarding his rise. I will never forget the time that, the Old Trafford run, that was infamous. And don't think one of my favorite ones, the celebrations which he's known for, is the Inter Milan against Barcelona celebration that he did. I think that was iconic. Like you mentioned, on his day, he can produce a tactical masterclass. But then, like you mentioned, that he has had his failures as well. But I wanted you to kind of answer the next question that I wanted to follow on Jose as a coach, is his strengths and weaknesses. Could you point out any strengths in him as a coach and also some of his weaknesses? You mentioned Fabregas saying maybe that is a weakness, that he trusted his players too much. Give me your takes.
One of Jose's strengths, I think, but then this could also be a weakness, is, I would say, and I think Carlton Cole said it fairly recently, is that he's pretty much a psychologist, Mourinho. Like, Mourinho will get inside somebody's head, and once he's in there, I think he's difficult to get out. Now, it can work for some, but I don't think it can work for all. Now, he could really, really, really like hammer home or hammer a player and give them so much stick almost. I think we've seen that as well with certain players. Like I say, I think with some it works because then they'll have that intrinsic motivation to then, the gaffer's pulling me out. Like, right, let me go into training and prove him wrong, which then ultimately is what Jose's after, and that's what he wants. But then at times it hasn't really worked, and players have perhaps gone the other way and gone, our manager's having a go at me again. Then next thing you know, they're on the phone to the agents. The agents are then speaking out, and stuff like that. So, like I say, it could be a strength, could be a weakness. I think his ability to win any one-off game, I think, is a strength. And obviously, Tottenham are in the Carabao Cup final against Manchester City, and City are huge favourites, But there is this little thing of, don't write Mourinho off, because if you write him off, he loves to prove people wrong, and he can produce a tactical masterclass, as you mentioned. We've seen it already to a certain degree this season against Manchester City, against Arsenal. He's done it in the past with Chelsea when they went to the Etihad and won on a Monday Night Football. The Inter Milan game that you mentioned as well against Barcelona, again, a tactical masterclass there from Mourinho. He's got the capability and the ability just to pull something out the bag. And it's almost like, I feel with Jose, sometimes it's like, get me to this point and then I will win you. So it's almost like, get me to the final and then I'll win you the final. Because he's so experienced, he's done it before. I think Mourinho's Tottenham have shown that there are certain weaknesses under Mourinho in terms of styles of play. Like for me, I don't feel like the style of play suits Tottenham. I don't think it really suits the players in terms of sitting in and counter-attacking. It just doesn't suit. Tottenham haven't got the players to do it. But at the same time, it's like, well, it worked earlier on in the season. So, it's horses for courses, if you like. But yeah, I think his ability as well to play the media is second to none as well. Obviously, over here, the media scrutiny is by far and away the largest compared to any other country in any other league. And the way that he plays the media as well is fantastic. You always get a little bit of a nugget out of a Mourinho press conference. I'm half the time I'm there laughing because he's dropped in a little bit of a sly dig somewhere along the line. It's almost that siege mentality of us against them, but I think that only works for a certain period of time, and that then could be why he's had these fallouts at clubs with Chelsea and potentially at United, Real Madrid certainly. But I think it's been interesting that in his time at Tottenham as well, that you hear in rumblings that players necessarily aren't happy with the way training is structured. It's more about nullifying the opposition and based on defending, which is really ironic because, okay, Tottenham do actually have a really good defensive record this season, believe it or not, but it's the individual mistakes that are costing them, and that's why Tottenham are 8th in the league and not any higher. Because sometimes you can set your team up to play a certain way, but I don't think any coach at any level, like you could be working under sevens, you could be working under 18s, anything else in between. You could be working non-league on a Saturday or a Sunday, even Sunday league, even five-a-side. But if somebody makes a mistake and the other team go and score, you can't legislate for that. I'm sorry, you just can't. No manager at any level or any coach at any level can legislate for that. So that's been really disappointing from the Tottenham perspective. But I think sometimes as well the setup and the approach. I mean, if I take the Wolves game, prime example, Wolves away this season, Tottenham score, I believe, in the first 2 minutes, Tongi and Ndombele. The next 89, they're sitting back on the edge of their 18-yard box. So it's like, well, there's still time there to either get another couple of goals, but then also there's still time for Wolves to come back into the game, and obviously that's what happened. So yeah, I think sometimes the approach hasn't helped. But I think we have to remember that Mourinho is still roughly 18 months into his Tottenham tenure. So are we expecting too much too soon because it's Mourinho? You could argue that. Whereas I think other managers have been afforded a bit more time. And certainly if I look at Ole at United, he's been afforded a lot more time than Mourinho did. He's been able to shift a lot of the dead wood that Mourinho didn't get the opportunity to do. And yeah, I think, like I say, I don't know if we're expecting a bit too much because it's Jose, and because we know what he brings to the table. Are we expecting that wave of the magic wand and the instant success straight away? I don't know. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it, really.
No worries. I think, again, just like you mentioned, chance. I think time is another key word that you mentioned in terms of, Jose. And when I did some research on Jose, I found out that his average term as a coach at any club is roughly 1.9 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is obviously a short, roughly, like you said, 18 months or so. So I remember after the game against West Ham, in the post-match interview, he did say someone questioned his methods, and he said that his methods are second to none. Like me and my coach and stuff, like there's no way you can doubt our coaching methods. So I thought I'd ask that, to follow up with my next question regarding that, what he said, and ask you, are his methods sustainable? Because I talked about his average term as coach, 1.9 years. And if you look at, you mentioned at the time when he, the media scrutiny and how the media didn't like the way he came out, quite arrogant to say that he was a special one when you've got the likes of Fergie and Wenger who are there. Obviously, compared to, Ferguson and Wenger, they are obviously considered long-term greats. They had that time to establish themselves. And obviously, Mourinho's had average of 1.9. So, yeah, I guess my question is to you, are his methods sustainable? And I guess because he's lasted roughly 1.9 years, is that his fault to a degree, that he stayed for that long? Or, talk to me about that.
Well, let's put the facts. If his average term at a club is 1.9 years, then his methods aren't sustainable because they can't go, or they haven't been able to go more than the average of 1.9 years. Yeah, it's interesting the timing of those comments as well. I listened to an interview before Tottenham versus Burnley, and somebody said, like, why did you feel the need to come out and defend them, your methods? And his response, which was quite funny, was that because somebody asked me, basically. So yeah, I think when asked the question and when posed the question regarding something, Jose will always have an answer. Tottenham fans are probably the most split that I've ever seen, in terms of being Jose in or Jose out. A lot of Spurs fans will say that his methods aren't second to none because of the way that we're playing and the way we have been playing, certainly this season, could argue even after the restart, and whatnot. But then you got others that will go, well, his methods are successful and sustainable because he's won 25 trophies in his career. So I think Mourinho's more considered a great manager because he's won 25 trophies. But like you say, if his average term at a club is 1.9 years, then there's no sort of sustainability within his work almost. I don't know why that is. I think it has to be situational for me, in terms of you have to take each club as it is. So I think the first time round at Chelsea, if I look at that, okay, he had a fantastic squad, still holds the record for the least goals conceded in a Premier League season with 15. I think that time, though, he could be brutal with players and players would accept it a bit more. Obviously now the modern player isn't like that. I think, towards the end of the time there, it was a sense that Abramovich wanted certain players that potentially Mourinho didn't want. Shevchenko almost springs to mind on that one, because I don't necessarily think Mourinho wanted Shevchenko. He got afforded Shevchenko, if that makes sense. Where was he after that? Inter. I mean, he won the treble at Inter Milan, and played Samuel Eto'o on the wing. That says it all. And Eto'o is very vocal about who he prefers in terms of Pep and Mourinho. So yeah, there's that. Real Madrid, I think he just started. I think his idea was basically to stop Barcelona, and it wasn't to try and impose any personality on their part on the game. But yeah, it still holds a record, I believe, for 100 goals in a season. So there's that. I think as well, the falling out with senior players like Pepe was an interesting. But as well, I think Pepe held a bit of a large influence in that changing room. So to then sort of pick on him is bold and is very, very brave. So there was that. Back to Chelsea. Said it before, said it earlier with the Fabregas interview, saying that perhaps too much trust in the players, getting that extra day off here and there, potentially has killed him there. Then he went to United. I mean, he took over an awful squad of players really at United. They finished second, and he won the Charity Shield, I believe, the the Europa League and the League Cup. So it wasn't all bad at United from a perspective of what Mourinho brought to United. United fans will say different, but you have to remember he's still won more than Ole. But then even Moyes has won more than Ole at United. So yeah, it says it all. And then he's coming in at Tottenham, and it's interesting. I think with Mourinho at Tottenham, if I look at it, it's almost like he's used to working with a certain type of player, and that is the big superstars of the game, the world-class players. But he's coming at Tottenham, and it's like they're pretty much the second, third, fourth, could even argue fifth, some players down the pecking order. So yeah, I think it's easier to work with better players and get them to buy into what you're doing as opposed to lesser players, because they potentially need a bit of coaching and a bit of developing. And I don't think Mourinho's like that. And the prime example of that is Luke Shaw at United. Luke Shaw needs coaching. At that time that Mourinho was at United, he needed coaching, he needed developing, he needed, Mourinho wasn't there for that. Mourinho was there to, win and, get trophies. Ultimately, Mourinho done that. And that's why I think he fell out with Luke Shaw a little bit more, because, as I said, Shaw needed that bit of almost that care and attention. I'm not saying Mourinho doesn't care, but he needed the coaching and the developing at that time. Whereas, like I say, I think there was a thing at the board, like the board wanted younger players coming in to then develop them on and have a young core of players, whereas Mourinho looked at it and went, listen, you've gone however many years without winning the league, just give me what I need and we'll do it. And I think that's where the fractions with the board started happening. So in terms of, is Mourinho's methods sustainable? It is, but for a certain period of time. Clearly, the facts sort of speak for themselves. But are they sustainable? Like I say, yes, but for a certain period of time, and then all of a sudden you see little rumblings and things starting to happen.
You mentioned the amount of major trophies that he's won, with him being a manager. And I think you touched on it perfectly, which was obviously going to lead up to my next question in terms of the type of players that he needs at his club, the type of players that he needs to be able to, bring sustainable success to a football club that he's managed. So my next question is, talk to me about the personnel, the type of players that Jose likes to recruit. And then the next question I would, I guess, ask is, do you think, compared to a manager like a Klopp, who has actually built something, I guess, from the ground up, or like a Pochettino did from the ground up, do you think Jose is kind of capable of doing such? Or I guess, does that answer our last question in terms of, his methods are sustainable, but not, just for a certain period of time that he's not able to kind of build from the ground up? So talk to me first about like the personnel, the type of players that he likes to recruit.
Interesting, because I remember Mourinho's first interview at Tottenham, and he mentioned young players, because there's the stigma with Mourinho that he goes and buys the finished article, the 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32-year-olds. It's almost 27 to 32, that age bracket, the finished article, the person that's been there, seen it, done it. But his first interview, he spoke about young players, and he said every coach likes young players, but you have to have the right ones there. Now, Mourinho's personnel at Tottenham has been very, very interesting, because he's brought through and given opportunities to quite a few young players. I look at Dane Scarlett being a prime example. Dane Scarlett now virtually trains with the first team every day. Yet he's 16. Mourinho really gave Marcus Rashford a proper run in the United team at the time. I think if the right player is there in terms of that 27 to 32 age bracket, he will go and get them. If not, he may look then at what's already in the building in terms of the academy graduates. Yeah, obviously his recruitment at Tottenham's been interesting as well. I think the documentary highlighted that as well. It highlighted that virtually we were going to sign Steven Bergwijn anyway, and he was one on radar for at least a year, 18 months, which seems to be standard in football clubs, that players are on radar for a certain period of time. It's not like you rock up and go, right, who are we signing today on the first day of pre-season. Then obviously brought in Jedson Fernandez to try and cover a gap that was there because Sissoko was injured. Obviously we had the hiatus, if you like, the break because of COVID. Sissoko then got back fit. Jedson was virtually never to be seen again. So there was that. Then we look at his recruitment in the summer. Højbjerg, much needed in this Tottenham team, and has been by and large fantastic since he's come in. Doherty, mentioned in the documentary about being aggressive. Just hasn't worked out really for Tottenham. But again, somebody in that 27 to 32 age bracket. Højbjerg, mid-20s as well. Bergwijn, a young player. Jedson, a young player. He's brought in Joe Hart, the experienced end, but somebody who's been there, seen it and done it to perhaps help the dressing room. Joe Rodon, younger player. So it's a massive sort of contrast really in Mourinho's recruitment. I mean, Vinicius, mid-20s, Bale, global superstar at 31. So yeah, it's a bit to in and throw in really in terms of the personnel. But I think it's all about assessing what you have currently and how you can improve, but what areas you need to improve in, and then identifying the right type of player to help you improve. I look at his time at United and he brought in Zlatan. Again, somebody vastly experienced, been there, seen it, done it numerous times, and whatnot. Brought in Lukaku, who, real imposing centre forward. Big presence, big number 9. Seems to be the way that Mourinho almost likes his teams. But then you've got, obviously now he's got Harry Kane, who he's turning into an absolute monster, basically. Harry Kane is Tottenham's best centre forward, but probably arguably one of Tottenham's best central midfield players as well at the same time. With his passing range, it's a joke. If he specifically wanted Didier Drogba at Chelsea. At Inter Milan, he had Milito and Eto'o. Again, similar type of centre forward, similar profile of centre forward. And yeah, it's I think with the personnel, it's completely different. I think from club to club. So obviously the way that the different clubs are run, Abramovich is money. I think we've seen that almost in his time there, where it seems to be the solution to any problem at Chelsea seems to be throwing money at it. Inter had to do it a slightly different way. Had to be probably a little bit cleverer because they didn't necessarily have the finances of times gone by. And then United, I mean, he was in a fighting battle with the board constantly there, as I mentioned. Be brought in by Lindelof. Two types of centre halves. Again, real sort of powerful, imposing figures. Certainly height wise, I'm not saying that they are that in terms of the personality and the way they play. I think Bailly's rash as anything, but probably still United's best defender. Lindelof is a scaredy cat. It's probably the best way I can put it. Despite his size and his presence, he should be a leading centre half, but he's not. He's the one that likes almost to be led by somebody else alongside him. And I almost feel like that's the scenario that's happening at Tottenham with their defensive players, the centre halves especially. You've got Alderweireld, Dyer, Sanchez, the main 3 there. Dyer and Sanchez together do not work. I think any Tottenham fan will testify to that. They do not work. I think they both like to be led by somebody else. That person looks like it's Alderweireld, but he hasn't played probably as much as we'd have liked. So yeah, I think in terms of recruitment with Mourinho, it's very certainly at Tottenham, it's been very like from one side of the scale to the other. Has brought in experience, I think, when it's needed, but I think has brought in some decent additions. I think Mourinho's had 10 signings at Tottenham in his time. I think he spent over 130 million in his time. Obviously, in this summer, he brought in seven players, which was something that I didn't really anticipate. But Mourinho's probably the only Tottenham manager that has been able to buy squad players, but do it on a real sort of big scale, if that makes sense.
What I wanted to touch on, I think you pretty well in terms of the fact that, club by club, like you mentioned, personnel is different, and I'm interested to see what he actually does with the Tottenham squad. You mentioned the amount of money he spent over the summer, and it seemed as though, because I really enjoyed, at the time, when Jose was obviously unemployed and didn't have a job at the time, and we saw his, I think is it the Paddy Power advert that he was in.
Yeah.
There was that he was in. So it seemed that he was enjoying his break, but ready for a new challenge. So I think the fact that he's at Spurs now, I think I'm interested to see if he's able to challenge himself to deal with the personnel. I think it's a good point you mentioned regarding the type of strikers that he had. I was quite intrigued when you mentioned that and how there's similar finished articles sort of sense. But you're right in him saying that, as an Arsenal fan, watching Harry Kane this season destroy the league is a scary sight. But I did mention another question regarding him being able to manage a team from the ground up, doing a similar type of thing like Klopp. Talk to me about that. Do you think he's capable of doing that, or do you think he's always just going to stick, like you mentioned, to his methods? And that leaves him to maybe last 1.9 years at a club.
I think any manager, any coach going into any football club would love the opportunity to be there for a sustained period of time and develop a philosophy that runs right the way through the club. Ideal scenario, ideal world. Unfortunately, football is results driven. And I think it's very, very rare to see when things aren't going to plan that clubs stick with the person that they've got. I often used to say, probably until he left, that Eddie Howe probably had one of the safest jobs in football at Bournemouth. I don't think there was any way that they were going to really sack him because of the level of work that he'd done over the time period there. But then again, he was afforded time in order to get things right. Obviously, he took Bournemouth from League Two right the way to the Premier League pretty much, with a little spell at Burnley in between. But yeah, I used to say that Eddie Howe had the safest job in football because, like I say, there was no way that he was going to get sacked by Bournemouth. But I think his work previously merited the fact that he got the time. Though I think Mourinho would want that in an ideal world. I just don't think he's had the opportunity to have it. And that's because probably of the politics that's gone on with board, like I say, at United, players, it seems Chelsea and Madrid. So he's not really had that opportunity to stamp his authority almost on the club. But I think at the same time, there was a period after he left Chelsea the first time round where it was almost like Chelsea had to play 4-3-3. So it was almost like that in terms of a formation that was set, and no manager really could deviate from that. It was right, no, we play 4-3-3. But the managers that Chelsea almost brought in didn't always fit that. Ancelotti being a prime example, I think, in his time at AC Milan, more often than not, he played a diamond. And all of a sudden he's come in at Chelsea and then he's tried to change it. And then it's almost like, no, we play 4-3-3 here. Oh, well, actually I play a diamond. and that's the way that I work and I operate, and whatnot. So yeah, but then I think Ancelotti tried to change it, didn't necessarily work, and I think it wasn't until almost Mourinho came back that he then changed from, say, a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1. Very similar, but instead of probably two number 8s, you have a number 10 instead, and maybe 2 8s or a 4/6 and an 8 in there. So in terms of that, I don't think there's too much. But I think the game had changed and evolved into, you saw a lot of teams playing 4-2-3-1 anyway. And I don't think it wasn't until Antonio Conte really came in at Chelsea that he went, no, right, I'm going to go with what you guys want. And then all of a sudden, I think, as you probably know, the half time at the Emirates, he then went to that back three, and then that was it. That was set. So it was probably only until Conte went in at Chelsea that somebody was actually afforded the opportunity to change something in a formational structure at Chelsea, because I think the Mourinho tag had almost lived on probably that little bit too long. But yeah, I think, do I see Jose doing it at Tottenham? Probably not. Levy put him on a 2.5 year deal. I think most Spurs fans, well, like I said earlier, half the fan base want him out, half the fan base want him to stay. I think if the league position doesn't improve, it's then riding on the 2 cup final. I think it's riding on Mourinho's time at Tottenham's riding on probably 2 things: probably the result in the cup final against City and the performance in the Europa League. I think if Mourinho gets Tottenham over the line in both, he's afforded another year, maybe 2. If not, big questions will be asked, because have we really seen much progress from Tottenham under Mourinho from Pochettino? Probably not. So it's I'm of the opinion that give Jose till the end of the season and see what happens there. Like I say, I think the League Cup and the Europa League campaign is, I wouldn't say keeping Jose in a job, but it's certainly keeping him there perhaps a little bit longer, because there was how do you drastically fall from being top of the league in December to being mid-table in the space of 6 to 8 weeks? Like, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I think it's certainly one of those. Obviously, Mourinho's on a very, very nice contract as well, and it would cost Mr. Levy a fair bit of money to get Jose out of the door. And Tottenham's run a certain way in terms of the finances. So yeah, like I say, I think Jose I don't think he'll get that time at Tottenham, sadly. Like, look, I want Jose to work out at Tottenham. I want him to be successful, but if the sacrifice is too much, and it seems at times it has been too much, then is it really worth it? Not for me. Not for me. Like, for example, if I've been asked the question, if Spurs won the Carabao Cup playing this way, would that be enough? And I've even asked that question to some Spurs fans that I know, and the general consensus of that cohort of fans is probably not, because I'm not saying the Carabao Cup is probably the last of the priorities in terms of trophies. Like, Spurs fans have been starved of a trophy for 13 years, but then you've got other clubs that were around Tottenham's level. Some clubs have spent more money than Tottenham and are still nowhere near winning a trophy. But that doesn't get mentioned by media outlets. Just want to throw that one in there. So yeah, it's almost that, like, okay, yeah, we've got the trophy, but I think Jamie Carragher hit the nail on the head in a Monday Night Football not so long ago, and it was that Pochettino made Tottenham fans believe that we could win the Premier League and the Champions League, and we were very, very close to doing both. That's that's the difference, I think. Mourinho coming in, yes, we know he's won trophies, but am I of the same belief and of the same opinion that we will win something playing this way? Not as much as I was, when Poch was there in the type of football we were playing. But like I say, having said that, we're in a cup final at the minute. So Mourinho getting to a cup final, our first domestic cup final since 2015, that has to count for something. But yeah, that's it. Like I say, I think Mourinho and any coach would love the longevity. I just don't think he's going to get it at Tottenham, unfortunately.
Well, you kind of summed up everything pretty well, because I think you kind of answered the final question that I was leading up to, in terms of how can Jose, what would be a good season, to end the season well. And you mentioned that, him potentially winning the Carabao Cup and getting far in Europa League could afford him another year or so. And it's as a rival fan, seeing Mourinho come in, I think it's the first time I could say that I haven't seen this much of a divide in ever. I think simply because of, who Mourinho is, and like you mentioned, his playing styles. Obviously, and now you've got the two sides in Jose and Jose out. But I guess to get into, you can go into more detail if you want regarding what do you think would be a good season for you guys to end.
A good season for Tottenham is to win a trophy, right? And it's by hook or by crook as to how we do that. But like I said, if we win the Carabao Cup, but the way that we're necessarily playing isn't the greatest, then it's a bit like, right, so we gave up something ridiculously special for this. It's like it doesn't, the almost boring defensive counter-attack style football, conceding possession to teams and then, smashing it up the pitch and hoping that Kane and Son are clinical. Like, it's not a great watch. Like, I was lucky enough to go to the North London derby when 2,000 fans were allowed in. That was probably the worst type of football that I've ever seen from Tottenham, and it was genuinely probably the worst performance that I've seen from Arsenal at the same time. But we won the game 2-0. We were top of the league. We were flying. I think, though, that the West Ham game earlier on in the season highlighted some problems for Mourinho. I think he I wouldn't say got away with it. That sounds like he didn't have a clue, but it almost like we got by until the Liverpool game at Anfield. I think that was I think if we'd have come away with something at Anfield, I think the players would have started to believe a little bit more, in the sense that, okay, we can go away to these teams, these big teams that have won the league, the Champions League, etc., and we can get results. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and then I think after that, it's almost like when you don't win playing this sort of counter-attack style, it's almost like, oh, okay, because there's not much else. It's almost worse because there's not much else to sort of pin your hat on. I think the West Ham game last week was interesting in the sense that I think Tottenham, when we've been losing, we usually just turn up in the between 70 77th minute, and it's like, well, why don't we do this earlier? We absolutely battered West Ham for say 20-25 minutes, but we were awful for 70. So yeah, I think it's a successful season is winning a trophy, but one that perhaps keeps Mourinho in a job a bit longer. It almost feels like we have to at least win the Europa League, because, all right, Tottenham's trophy drought is 13 years without a trophy, right? And that's the League Cup, the Carabao Cup. So it's 13 years without that, 30 years without winning the FA Cup. So I've not seen Tottenham win the FA Cup. Just to put that into context, it's it's probably about 60 years since we last won the league, right? And we've not really been in a position to win the league until those two title charges that we had under Pochettino. We've not had a European trophy since the 80s. So, I think for Mourinho I think if he won the Europa League, or at least got us into the final of the Europa League, right, that would be 2 European Cup finals in 3 years for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. That's unheard of. Like, especially in my life, that's unheard of. Like, I remember Tottenham finishing 15th, and that was a good season when I was growing up. I used to get slated by my mates. I still do now, to be fair, but I used to get it a lot worse when we were 14th, 15th, mid-table, not really going anywhere. And it almost wasn't until sort of the Martin Jol era where we started to, Jol had a good young team, decent squad depth as well, 2 players pretty much for every position. And it looked like we were on the way to something really, really good and really, really special. So yeah, I think Jol put something in place there. Then we had Juan de Ramos, who remains Tottenham's most successful manager in the 21st century, which is such a weird stat. I can't believe I'm saying that, to be fair, but then in the first instance, when Ramos was there, the football was, it was attacking. We were going at teams left, right and centre, getting the ball forwards and everything else. And then I don't know what happened in the summer, but it was like, it wasn't the same Tottenham team at all. Obviously, he got the sack. Then we had Harry, and it was almost like we went back to that attacking football. Plenty of pace. We had Bale on one side, Lennon on the other, Modric pulling strings. We had Van der Vaart doing bits. And then all of a sudden, AVB come in. Obviously, Harry got us in the Champions League, got us to a quarter final for the first time being in it. That was an amazing journey. The AVB Sherwood era, less said about that, the better, really, because I can say it now. We were a one-man team, and that was Gareth Bale. I can say it now. I didn't want to say it at the time, but it was Gareth Bale. And then Poch rebuilt everything, rebuilt the club pretty much, got rid of a lot of big egos, players that were there just to pick up the wage, and stuff like that. So yeah, Poch sort of took us on a fantastic journey, gave me some of the best nights of my life as a Spurs fan, as well, and some of my best moments to date in my actual life, probably because some of these experiences that I've been able to share. I go to Spurs games with my dad, so to be able to share those moments with him is something really, really special. But yeah, it feels like for Jose, it's almost like if Mourinho's winning, the style is forgotten about because the results are there. If he's not winning, that's when the question marks come, because we've got so many sort of attacking players, yet it almost feels like we're choosing to be defensive when we've got, like, just go and attack. Tottenham fans have been brought up on attacking football. It's the style versus substance debate at Spurs. Jose is the substance in terms of the trophies, but the style is not what Tottenham fans want. But his argument is, well, your Tottenham way, your Tottenham style has got you nothing. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to get you the substance. Whether you like the style or not, I really don't care, because at the end of the day, I'm here to put the substance there for you guys. But I think the documentary highlighted a lot. For me, in terms of, actually, I didn't realise how many injuries we had last season. It was like whenever we'd get one back, it seemed 2 were going, and whatnot. I saw something in Mourinho that perhaps I didn't know that was there, in terms of a side to him that I wouldn't say that he didn't care about his players, but I saw him really trying to understand his players and the needs of his players. This season looks like it's a bit questionable, given that the needs of the players perhaps are, something different in terms of trying to play a little bit more of a different style and whatnot. But yeah, I think the documentary highlighted that actually Mourinho is quite a likable person. And there's a lot that you can like about Mourinho. There's obviously a lot that you can hate, but yeah, I think the documentary opened up a lot of people's eyes to go, actually, Mourinho isn't that bad of a person as perhaps we thought he was. Wouldn't say he was like a monster or anything, but we just thought, oh, he's here, ex-Chelsea, da-da-da-da. But actually, he's there for the good of Tottenham, and he wants the best for Tottenham, which, again, is something that perhaps a lot of fans necessarily didn't see. And yeah, I think, like I say, for Jose to almost have a successful season, it feels like we have to win the Carabao Cup or Europa League for him to almost stay in a job. But he's had, in his time at Tottenham, he's had a squad that wasn't his, so he's had to change that. He's had to change the mentality of these squad of players, from being like, okay, we're there, and we're sort of there. We're getting into semi-finals, and we're sort of happy with that. We just can't get over the line. Oh, that's unfortunate. We go again next season. So he's almost tried to instill like a winning mentality. I think everybody knows one of his famous lines in the documentary. I don't think I can repeat it because there might be kids watching. Intelligent roughhouses is probably the best way I can describe it. So yeah, he's having to bring that in. He's had to deal with a pandemic like most clubs, granted. But the Tottenham squad needs a rebuild. Poch said it. Poch said it needed a rebuild. And I think fans are alerted, is probably the best word to describe. They're alerted to the fact that we need a rebuild because half the squad isn't good enough. Do I see it happening in the summer? No. Simply because most clubs won't have the level of finances that they would have had before, because they've had a whole season pretty much of no fans. So that's killed. I think that's killed a lot of clubs. The match day revenue is ridiculous. But most clubs anyway, like most clubs kind of survive on that match day revenue. And the fact that they're not getting that has been a big killer. Obviously the clubs that are in Europe, they get that added extra revenue from match days as well, more games. So I don't see it really happening, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think it almost feels like Tottenham had an identity under Pochettino. It feels like we've lost it a little bit under Jose, because we've got Fulham on Thursday. Do I know what Tottenham team is going to turn up at Craven Cottage? Not a chance. Did I know what Tottenham team was going to turn up against Burnley? No. I thought that could easily be a scrappy 1-0, or Burnley might even nick it. So yeah, I think that level of inconsistency has been awful there to see. And yeah, like I say, I feel like he has to win probably the Europa League over the Carabao Cup for it to be a successful season for Spurs, because do I see us getting top 4? Be a huge ask, but we've got some decent fixtures coming, which will help our cause. So it's almost like, right, top 6 plus Europa League or Carabao Cup seems to be the way for Tottenham to have a successful season.
That was a it was like a beautiful eulogy that you were going on there.
Sorry,
regarding just like, how can we save our season? Well said. Before the West Ham game, this was actually his worst run of form as a manager ever in his career. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Dr. Tottenham will see you now, basically. So we have this little thing where I think, right, we played Brighton at the Amex. Brighton hadn't won a home league game all season. They play Tottenham, they win 1-0. It's like any cure, anything, any form that needs addressing, Spurs will fix it for you. So we've got this whole Dr. Tottenham thing going on at Spurs at the minute. Like I say, Dr. Tottenham will see you now. It's almost like Werner, right? on a barren goal scoring run. Chelsea rock up at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and Eric Dyer decides he wants to try and slide into someone's DMs and hook him down in the penalty box. Timo Werner then wins a penalty. Dr. Tottenham.
That's well put in terms of regarding how Tottenham could save their season. Obviously, I'm excited to see how that pans out. And like you said, we'll have to see in the summer, depending on where you guys finish, depending if you win the cup final, how far you get in the Europa League, to see if we might be having another conversation regarding Mourinho at Tottenham. So that's it from it, guys, in regards to the coach's insight for Jose Mourinho. But before we finish this episode, it is not a coach's insight episode without a quiz by myself. So,
Here we go.
Wes, this week we have 5 questions about Mr. Jose Mourinho, and we're going to see if you can get 100% like last week, which was on Jurgen Klopp, I believe. Yes, Jurgen Klopp. So, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
For those of you paying attention at home, feel free to get a pen and paper ready and follow along with our quiz and see if you can beat Wes's score. So let us begin with question number 1. According to transfermarket.com, how many major trophies has Jose Mourinho won as a manager? Is it A, 23, B, 29, or C, 33?
Ooh, there's a couple of curveballs in there. Major trophies. See, this is the thing. What constitutes as a major trophy? Because is it
okay? So
would the Charity Shield, for example, class as a major trophy?
So in terms of, I guess what I'm trying to say is how many total trophies has he won in his manager coach? So according to Transfer Market, I added up all the trophies that he's won, including the Charity Shield. So is it A, 23, B, 29, or C, 33?
Got to be 33. Got to be.
That's correct. Yeah, that is correct. C, 33. That is 1 point. For those of you that put 33C, well done. That is the correct answer. Moving on to question number 2. Who is Jose Mourinho's record signing as manager? Is it A, Romelu Lukaku, B, Paul Pogba, or C, Andrei Shevchenko?
Oh man. I know he didn't necessarily sign Pogba, but I know it's on his watch. But I'm going to go with Lukaku.
Well, according to transfermarket.com, it is Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba. B, Paul Pogba. Okay. So that, for those of you who put Pogba, that is correct. Everyone will never forget the famous video, which me and Wes still talk about this day, with Stormzy to unveil his signing at United. So Paul Pogba is Mourinho's record signing as manager. So that's 1 out of 2 so far, 50%. We'll move on to question 3. How many languages can Jose Mourinho speak? Now, I'll even give you a bonus point if you can mention the languages that he can speak, but I'll give you 3 multiple choice options. You've got A9, B6, or C4.
I reckon it's 6. And I reckon he can speak Portuguese, Spanish, English, French, Italian, and what's the other one? Can't think of the other one, but I know that he was learning Korean as well.
Well, for the main answer, you are correct. It is B6. So Jose can speak 6 languages. As you mentioned, there are Portuguese, French, Spanish, Italian, English, and he can speak Catalonian, which is the language, I think, from the little
Barcelona area.
So Catalonia is the 6th language that Jose Mourinho could speak. For those of you that did not know that, you learned something new about the special one. So well done. That is question 3 correct. Question number 4. What is Jose Mourinho's biggest defeat as manager? Is it A, 5-0, B, 4-1, or C, 7-2?
Well, it's probably come under his time at Tottenham, to be fair. I'm going to go 4-1.
4-1. That is actually incorrect, Wes. That is incorrect. The answer is A, 5-0. That is his biggest defeat as manager. For those of you who remember the game, it was actually the game that he got spanked by Barcelona in 2011. I think it was 2011 or 2012. He got spanked 5-0. So that was one of the most. My younger brother watches that game all the time on YouTube, and yeah, 5-0. So
poor for me. That very poor. Very poor.
You were thinking that it was going to happen at his time at Spurs, but no, it was actually at one of the biggest clubs in the world, in Madrid. So well done to those who got 5-0, which was A. So that is 2 out of 4. So that's again 50%. But we'll move on to the last question. Question number 5. Which manager has Mourinho? Okay, I guess this is a 2-part question. This is a 2-part question. Okay. So, can you name the manager that Mourinho has defeated the most? And can you name the manager that Mourinho has lost to the most? So it's a 2-part question. 2-part question. I'll give you a point for each.
Man.
To make it, yeah.
I think one of the managers that he's lost the most to is Klopp. I think there's a few in terms of who he's beaten the most. I think there's a few contenders. I'm going to say Moise. Right. I'm going to say Moise.
Moise. Ooh, you were right in terms of the fact that there are a few contenders that he's defeated the most. But the 2 names that you mentioned, is that your final answer in terms of Klopp and who was the other one that you mentioned?
Moise. Klopp and Moise.
Yeah, is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Cool. So just to reveal to anybody who also put down their answers, the manager that Jose Mourinho has actually defeated the most are 2 managers, in fact. But obviously, it's okay that I didn't expect you to get both. If you mentioned one of them, that would have been completely fine. One of them is Mark Hughes. Yeah. And the other one is your good old boy Poch, today's birthday. Poch, he's defeated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That is 11 wins, actually. 11 wins against both of those managers.
That's in. I thought Moyes and Wenger would also be up there because Jose hardly ever lost. I think Jose's first defeat against Moyes was last week. Typical. And yeah, he very rarely lost to Wenger as well.
Wenger was a close second, I believe, in 10 losses. So me as an Arsenal fan, knowing how much we hate Mourinho simply because he always had one over Wenger. Yeah. But the manager that he's actually lost to the most is actually the guy down, the Etihad, Pep Guardiola. He's lost to him the most. Ooh. Yeah. 12 losses to Guardiola. 12. So
I should have known that because I'm pretty sure that Sky did a little graphic of it when we played City and Davinson Sanchez got sent back to Colombia by Ilkay Gundogan a couple of weeks ago. So again, but now I thought Klopp would be up there as well because of, I think it was more the way Klopp's teams play, but then now thinking about it, I don't think Mourinho would have come across Klopp too often. Yeah.
So that is it for the quiz. Let me just do a quick recap of Wes's score. So for A, it was correct. He put C, 33 major trophies. Question number 2, Wes said A, Romelu Lukaku, but the answer was B, Paul Pogba. Question number 3, Wes got correct, which was B, 6 languages that Mourinho can speak. Question number 4, Wes was incorrect. The answer was A, 5-0. And question number 5, which manager has Mourinho defeated the most and lost to the most? The answers were Pochettino or Hughes for defeated the most and lost to the most was Pep Guardiola. So Wes, that brings your total score around 2 out of 5, which is around 40%, which is obviously a big dip from last week in which you got 100%, 60% drop. But that's okay. I guess that kind of shows that you're just there to stick with Mourinho. During the time at Tottenham, you don't really care too much about.
Well, it's inconsistency, isn't it? Now, you know what I mean, a bit like Tottenham this season. Had a great result last week with the 100%, and then a massive drop off. A drop off this week with the 40% on the quiz today. So, guys, that wraps it up for us for today. Big thank you to Nelson for being the host with the most and with the questions. Apologies again to any people listening or watching that if I went on a little bit on any of the topics that Nelson was giving me. Obviously, we are on all social media platforms, so give us a follow on there at WM32 Football. So that is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, we're on there. Also, don't forget, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Comment your thoughts on anything that I've said today regarding Mourinho and any sort of insight there. Comment as well on any topics you would like us to cover in the future as well, and we will get those into our schedule. And again, make sure you subscribe to the channel and try and help us hit 100 subscribers. As I said at the top of the show, would be really, really humbling for me to get that sort of a landmark. So yes, make sure you subscribe. Lots and lots of different content on the channel as well. We're also on Spotify. Give us a follow on there as well so you can listen if you don't want to see mine or Nelson's faces and just want to listen to our dulcet tones instead. And that just wraps it up as well. Actually, I forgot. Don't forget the online shop, live and direct, so you can cop your own WM32 football merch. I've got a t-shirt on today. Nelson has finally got his own WM32 football hoodie as well from our online shop. So www.wm32football.com/shop. I did it. I nailed it. Brilliant. I'm buzzing with that. Guys, take care, stay safe, and we will see you very, very soon.
Thank you.